Good evening and welcome to the Bhagavatam. Today we continue with the Uddhava Gita, 11th Canto, chapter number 18 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the conversation continues between Uddhava and Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Krishna said, a self-realized person who has cultivated spiritual knowledge up to the point of enlightenment and who is free from impersonal speculation, understanding the material universe to be simply illusion, should surrender unto me both that knowledge and the means by which he achieved it. Now, it's a complex statement, so let me break it down for you. So a self-realized person is recognized by this singular, most important quality, and that is that they are free from the illusions of this world. They realize that I am the self, the soul, and I am not this body, I am not this mind, but rather I am that spiritual essence that lives within this body. So that is the beginning of that self-realization process. So, and he says here, a self-realized person who has cultivated spiritual knowledge, so this comes through spiritual knowledge, up to the point of enlightenment, and who is free from impersonal speculation. So impersonal speculation is that you come to that point of enlightenment and now you think that everything is just impersonal. The divine source, God, is just an energy. And since it is just an energy, it cannot be a being. And since it cannot be a being, there is no such being. And so this is that impersonal speculation of the Mayavad philosophy, as it has been called. So back again to the point. A self-realized person who has cultivated spiritual knowledge and come to the point of enlightenment should surrender unto the Supreme Godhead, that which is Bhagavan. Should surrender what? Both that knowledge and the means by which he achieved it. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that somehow or other we must free ourselves from material illusion. So that's our first step. And that illusion has covered us since time immemorial, meaning for thousands and thousands of lifetimes that we have spent, we have been under this illusion of this world, that I am the body, I am the mind, that this is my family, this is my home, and we're here to enjoy this world. And none of that is true, because enjoyment is fleeting at best. Ownership of things is temporary for a little while. And whoever we think of as our loved ones and family, they're there in this life. But beyond this life, there'll be a whole new set. And so all of these things are temporary and they're all part of the material illusion. And this illusion has been covering us, covering our pure consciousness, the consciousness of the soul, since eternal time. So cultivating desirelessness and renunciation and all the other practices of the yoga system, the living entity develops knowledge of this illusion. Why does he develop this knowledge? So he lifts himself up from the reach of material ignorance. However, when one is free from illusion, then the process that led to becoming free has no further practical application. One should then engage in the loving service of the personality of Godhead, of Bhagavan, and become a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. That is what one needs to do after enlightenment. Enlightenment is just the beginning. Most people are very fascinated with this idea of enlightenment, and of course they should be, because it means that you have become free from the control of Maya on you. We are all under that control. And we are suffering because of that, because of our identification with false things, because of our being controlled by our mind, or controlled by our senses, controlled by our desires, controlled by everything around us, right? All of us are in this boat. We are all controlled. So one who becomes free of control is certainly a very evolved person. We call that person an enlightened being or self-realized person. However, once you're out of a place of being controlled, let's say a slave becomes free or a prisoner gets out of jail, well, that's when life just begins. It's not the end. That's just the beginning of real life. And that real life, as is described by Krishna here, is to engage in the loving service of God, because we are all eternal servants of God. And most of us don't like that idea because we want to be the masters of everything, the enjoyers of everything. And that's why we're here in this world. So we can be the master, be the enjoyer. But when you give up that illusion and you understand that actually everything is being done, I have no control over anything. I do not control my heart. I do not control my lungs. I do not control the wind. I do not control the weather. I do not control anything really. I create my own little realities and I try to control things within them, and things keep going up and down, sometimes working, sometimes not working. But in terms of the actual nature, the body, and the things that really matter, without which there would be no life, I am not in control of any of it. And so if you are not in control, you're not the controller, you're not the proprietor, you didn't create this world, then somebody else must be, right? It can't just be random. Look at the complexity of this world. It's just impossible for you, to consider that it can be in any way random, that it just happens or it's just happening by chance. No, nothing is happening by chance. That's utter ridiculousness. Challenge me on this point and I'd be happy to discuss it further. But for now, let's continue. So then Sri Krishna, that is Bhagavan, the Supreme Being, he continues. He says, for learned self-realized philosophers, I am the only object of worship, the desired goal of life, the means for achieving that goal, and the conclusion of all knowledge. So look at that. For someone who is realized, a self-realized person, I, that is Krishna, am the only object of worship, the desired goal of life, the means for achieving that goal, and the conclusion of all knowledge. If you've understood this, you have come to the most powerful place of all. You have understood that He, the Supreme Being, God, Bhagavan, is the only object of worship. Nothing and no one else should be worshipped. No politician, no movie star, no musician should be worshipped. Only that Supreme Being. He is the desired goal of life. People want to know, what is the purpose of life? What is the goal of life? He, Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, is the goal of life. And He is also the means for achieving that goal, which means that His very name, His very pastimes, His very forms, all of that are the means by which we can achieve that goal, achieve the loving service of that Supreme Being. And He is the conclusion of all knowledge. That's what He says in the Bhagavad Gita as well. Vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedya. I am the source of the Vedas, and by all the Vedas, the Veda means knowledge, books of knowledge that were written thousands of years ago. And by Vedaischa, I am, and by all the Vedas, I am to be known. Then he continues, indeed, because I am the cause of their happiness and their freedom from unhappiness, such learned souls have no effective purpose or dear object in life except me. Because I am the cause of their happiness, the connection that we have with that divine being, that Supreme Lord, that Sri Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, that He is the cause of all happiness. He is Satchit Ananda. Ananda means blissfulness. And this is blissfulness that has no cause. Nothing needs to happen. Material happiness has a cause and an effect, and it's temporary. But that which lies within us, which is a part of God, the soul, that is always Ananda, blissful. That part of us, the soul within us, tells us something about the nature of God. That He is eternally blissful. He is the source of all happiness, of all bliss. So he says, I am the cause of their happiness and their freedom from unhappiness. Such learned souls have no effective purpose or dear object in life except me. When you understand that, then that's you make Him the goal of your life, the purpose of your life. Try and understand, if you got this one thing down, that Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Supreme Lord, is the purpose of life. What is the purpose? To serve Him, because we are part of Him. And as part of Him, our relationship with Him is one of service. And even further, to love Him. And to love Him is to serve Him. And to serve Him is to love Him. These go hand in hand. Right? So it's not just about some intellectual knowledge. He's saying those who are truly learned souls have understood this. This is what it means to have understood. This is what knowledge means. Then he says, those who have achieved complete perfection through philosophical and realized knowledge. So it's not just philosophical knowledge, not just intellectual knowledge, but realized, meaning they've understood it at the deepest level. That I am in illusion in this world, that this world is unreal. So such persons recognize my lotus feet, the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, to be Sreshtham. This is the lotus feet of Krishna. They are Sreshtham, which means the supreme transcendental object. Thus the learned transcendentalist is most priya, most dear to me. And by his perfect knowledge, he maintains me, attains me in happiness. So that perfection which is produced by a small fraction of spiritual knowledge cannot be duplicated by performing austerities, visiting holy places, chanting, silent prayers, giving in charity, or engaging in other pious activities. So, you can do all these holy ritualistic activities by chanting prayers, by giving in charity, by doing other pious activities. You can do all this stuff. But perfection is attained by a small fraction of spiritual knowledge, even just a little bit of spiritual knowledge. If you get it, if you have that aha moment of getting it, that Krishna is everything, that there is nothing beyond Him, and that my relationship is to serve Him and love Him. And that in so doing, I begin to love everyone and everything. And life becomes incredibly beautiful. This simple realization is all one needs. You can go around otherwise trying so many different processes. And they'll give you some result, but they will not give you the ultimate result. So in the purport it is explained, one may perform penances, difficult penances, fasting and being in very difficult or austere situations. One may visit holy places, chant prayers, give charity, all these things with a proud mentality or a material, hypocritical motivation. So many people, if I do this, then I will get, pious deeds. I will have done good deeds. I will have accumulated good karma. What is the result of good karma? Then I will get good results. I will become rich. I will become famous. I will have a beautiful body. If not in this life, then in the next. I'm preparing. Some people want to do good deeds so that they will go to heaven. Why do they want to go to heaven? Because they will be a good life there. They will have mansions and they will live beautiful lives and have beautiful bodies and they will then enjoy. Ultimately, they want to enjoy. And they're doing all these things so they would enjoy. They're not connected to God. They're not interested in pleasing Him. They're not interested in loving Him. They're only interested in their own selfish, hypocritical motivation, as it says here. On the other hand, realized knowledge of the supremacy of Sri Krishna will gradually lead to one's ultimate benefit, which is being promoted to the highest level of conscious existence called Vaikuntha, or the kingdom of God. Vaikuntha is a very interesting word. The kingdom of God, according to the Vedas, is Vaikuntha, that is the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, which is situated within the light of the Brahma Jyoti. So we've heard about the light, people talk about going to the light and merging with the light. Within that light are planets, and those planets are known as the Vaikuntha planets. And Vaikuntha means the place where there is no anxiety, no worry, no fear, no anxiety. And it is the highest level of conscious existence. So that is where they go. Persons who have realized the supremacy of Sri Krishna. And that realization leads to one's ultimate benefit. Now, it's not just about realizing it intellectually, it's realizing it practically and living it practically. That needs to be emphasized. Then Krishna says, my dear Uddhava, through knowledge you should understand your actual self, that you are the soul. Then, advancing by clear realization of Vedic knowledge, you should worship me in the mood of loving devotion. The words used in Sanskrit are bhaja mam bhakti bhavataha. This is very clear. Mam means me in Sanskrit. Bhaja means to worship. Bhaja mam, worship me. How? Bhakti bhavataha, with the bhav, with the feelings of loving devotion and bhakti. How should one worship God? Not from a ritualistic place, not from a point of view of doing some mechanical activity, not from a place of just doing the, going through the motions. No. Bhakti bhavataha, with the bhav, with the emotions, with the intensity of love of God. That bhakti, that devotional service, that is what touches his heart. Then he says, formerly great sages through the sacrifice of Vedic knowledge and spiritual enlightenment worship me within themselves, knowing me to be the supreme Lord of all yajna, of all sacrifice, and the Paramatma, the super soul in everyone's heart. Thus coming to me, these sages achieved the supreme perfection. So in ancient times, he's saying how through this practice of yajna, practice of various ritualistic sacrifices, and through the sacrifice of Vedic knowledge, which is the ultimate sacrifice, is having that knowledge of Gyan, of the Supreme Lord. They reached a place of spiritual enlightenment and worshipped Krishna within themselves. So they'd often be in the forest and meditating, and they don't have a temple there. They don't have any other way to. So they'd worship him within themselves because he is seated along with the soul within us. Paramatma, the Supreme Soul, is seated along with the soul within every one of us. So even if you have no one to turn to, and if you have no place to go, you can always worship him within you. Or he's all around you. But recognize that it's not just that nature is God, but that God is what permeates all of nature. My dear Uddhava, the material body and mind, composed of the three modes of material nature, attach themselves to you. So here he's making a very important point. The material modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, mix together to form all the objects we see around us. They also form all the bodies and all the creatures and everything. Material nature is formed from these levels of consciousness, goodness, passion, and ignorance. There are creatures in the mode of passion and creatures in the mode of ignorance and creatures in the mode of goodness. And so are there human beings like that. Now these energies attach themselves to us, but they are actually illusion, Krishna says, since they appear only at the present, having no original or ultimate existence. So in other words, they are not lasting. The modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, the modes of nature as they're called in the Vedas, they have no ultimate existence. What does have ultimate existence? Only that which is eternal. That is the soul and God. Everything else in this world is temporary. All that the body, everything here is temporary. So they only appear in the present, having no original or ultimate existence. How is it possible, therefore, that the various stages of the body, namely birth, growth, reproduction, maintenance, dwindling, and death, can have any relation to the eternal self? See, we are so identified with these stages of life. We celebrate our birthdays, we cry upon someone's death day, on their death anniversary. We are so happy when a baby is born, and we are so struggling for maintenance and somehow trying to survive on this earth. But none of this has any relation to who we really are. You say you love someone, but you don't even know that person. You say you love yourself. You've never met, you don't even know yourself. What are you loving? You're loving the body. You're loving whatever characteristics or qualities you have. But none of that is you. None of that is real. The real self you have never met. And you will only meet the real self when you learn this process of meditation, the process of bhakti, the process of going deep within yourself, seeking that which you are. So he says here, all these phases of life relate only to the material body, which previously did not exist and ultimately will not exist. The body exists merely in the present moment. Deliberate on this very carefully. The material body of which we are so obsessed and to which we are serving day and night, and to whom we offer our every breath, our every action, our every day, our every moment. That material body did not exist in the past and will not exist in the future. And we're saying past meaning before you came into this world, and will not exist in the future when you leave this world. This body will not exist. It is only temporary. Temporarily, it is your home. At this point, Uddhava, Krishna's friend, asks him, O Lord of the universe, Vishva Ishvara, beautiful expression. Vishva means the universe, and Ishvara means the controller. O Vishva Ishvara, controller or Lord of the universe, O form of the universe, Vishva Murti, you are the form of the universe embodied in this particular form. Please explain to me that process of knowledge which automatically brings detachment and direct perception of the truth. So is there a process by which I can have direct perception of the truth? Is it possible for me to have that? Like to realize it, to really get this? Because after all, intellectually, it's so hard to understand. Is there a process by which I can begin to have direct perception of the truth? And which automatically brings detachment. Jnana Vairagya. Right? These two things. And is there a process which is also transcendental? And not only that, but which is traditional among great spiritual philosophers, meaning it is tried, tested, and proven by great spiritual teachers over the ages. Is there a process or knowledge which has been sought by elevated personalities and which describes loving devotional service or bhakti yoga unto you? My dear Krishna, for one who is being tormented on the terrible path of birth and death and is constantly overwhelmed by the threefold miseries. Threefold miseries are miseries caused by one's body and mind, miseries caused by other living entities, and miseries caused by nature. Nature means the weather, storms, whatever else, bugs, whatever things might happen, right? So, for one who is being tormented on the terrible path of birth and death. What is the terrible path of birth and death? This life that we have. This is what we call life. And he's referring to it as the terrible path of birth and death. So to one who is on this path and is constantly overwhelmed by the threefold miseries, you recognize how overwhelmed we can often feel? The struggle can be so much, so difficult. He says, I do not see any possible shelter other than your two lotus feet, which are just like a refreshing umbrella that pours down showers of delicious nectar. So, it's a mystery, right? You're looking at Krishna's feet and you're wondering, what do you mean by that? You see, when you take shelter of someone, that is symbolized by their feet. You take shelter of their feet. And when you take shelter of that divine being who is the source of everything, who is the greatest of the great, who is the most powerful of the powerful, who is the controller of all controllers, who is the beginning, the middle, and the end, who is the purpose of all life and the purpose of all creation. When you take shelter of him, then he says it beautifully. Though your lotus feet are like a refreshing umbrella that pours down showers of delicious nectar. So on one hand, it's an umbrella protecting us from all the onslaught of the world, but on the other hand, it's instead giving us showers of delicious nectar. Nectar meaning that which produces ultimate joy, that which produces ultimate happiness, that which produces ultimate love, that which produces ultimate satisfaction. Those are the showers of Krishna's lotus feet, of one who has taken shelter of them. O Almighty Lord, please be merciful and uplift this hopeless living entity who has fallen into the dark hole of material existence, where the snake of time has bitten him. Uddhava is putting himself in our place. He is an intimate associate of Krishna. He is not speaking here for himself. He speaks for all of us. So he says, please be merciful and uplift this hopeless living entity who has fallen into the dark hole of material existence, where the dark snake of time has bitten him. This is our condition. And it is only if we go into a place of humility that we'll begin to understand the precarious condition we are in. We are so bewildered by this world, so bewildered by the process of survival, the process of trying to get by, that we are not even aware of the prison that we are locked in. We are locked in a prison, and we do not even realize that the bars of that prison are right here in our mind, and we are imprisoned within it, within our senses, within our mind, within this body. Then he says, in spite of such abominable conditions, this poor living entity has tremendous desire to relish the most insignificant material happiness. Is really this deep place of humility is so beautiful. He's saying we are all in such an abominable condition in this world, and so unfortunate that we do not realize it. And instead, we have a tremendous desire to relish the insignificant material happiness. Please save me, Uddhava says, by pouring down the nectar of your instructions, which awaken one to spiritual freedom. Please save me by pouring down the nectar of your instructions, which awaken one to spiritual freedom. Tell me if this isn't what you want. All of us. This should be our prayer. So I'm going to read it again. O Almighty Lord, please be merciful and uplift this hopeless living entity who has fallen into the dark hole of material existence, where the snake of time has bitten him. In spite of such abominable conditions, this poor living entity has tremendous desire to relish the most insignificant material happiness. Please save me by pouring down the nectar of your instructions, which awaken one to spiritual freedom. Then Bhagavan Sri Krishna replied, my dear Uddhava, just as you are now inquiring from me, similarly, in the past, King Yudhishthir, who considered no one his enemy, inquired from the greatest of the upholders of Dharma, Bhishma, while all of us were carefully listening. So this is the scene in which, at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, this is described in the Mahabharata, Bhishma had been shot with hundreds of arrows. And he had been knocked off his feet and was laying on a bed of arrows, dying. But Bhishma had the ability to choose at which moment he would leave his body. Until that time, he stayed alive. So he knew exactly when he wanted to leave his body. Die he would. There was no way to take the arrows out. You might wonder, why didn't they? And Krishna and the King Yudhishthir and all were sitting around, as you see here. They're all sitting there and they're asking him questions, basically wanting to hear from him, from his wisdom. because Bhishma was a very highly evolved person. So Krishna is saying this question was asked by King Yudhishthir to Bhishma. Just as Uddhava is now asking Krishna, he says in the same way in the past, King Yudhishthir had inquired from Bhishma while everybody was gathered around. When the great battle of Kurukshetra had ended, King Yudhishthir was overwhelmed by the death of many beloved well-wishers, and thus, after listening to instructions about dharmic principles, he finally inquired about the path of liberation. I will now speak unto you those religious principles, those dharmic principles of Vedic knowledge, detachment, self-realization, faith, and devotional service, which were directly heard from the mouth of Bhishma Dev. I personally approve of that knowledge by which one sees the combination of 9, 11, 5, and 3 elements in all living entities, and ultimately one element within those 28. So I'm going to explain to you what is these different numbers Krishna has just mentioned. So he begins with the 9 elements, and the 9 elements are material nature, the living entity, the Mahatattva, false ego, 5 objects of sense perception. So we've got 5 and 4, 9 over there, right? And the 5 objects of sense perception are sound, touch, form, taste, and smell or aroma. So these are the first 9. Then you have the 11 elements. The 11 elements are the 5 working senses: the voice, the hands, the legs, the anus, and the genitals. These are called the 5 working senses. Then you have the 5 knowledge acquiring senses: the ears, the touch, eyes, tongue, nostrils. And then you have the mind. So these are 11. Then you have the 5 physical elements. And these are earth, water, fire, air, and sky. And you have the 3 modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Then all living entities, from Brahma down to the insignificant weed, manifest material bodies composed of these 28 elements. Then, however, in all of them, the one element within all 28 is the Supersoul or Paramatma. That is the presence of God within everything and everyone. He is all-pervading within the material and spiritual worlds. So it's a very, very important understanding that there are 28 elements as described, but within all of them lies the Paramatma, the Supreme Being, the presence of God within everything and everyone. Then he continues, when one no longer sees the 28 separated material elements which arise from a single cause. So what is that single cause? Is the Paramatma, the Supreme Being, God. Krishna is the Supreme Vedanti Tattva Vidas Tattvam Advayam. And that Advay, that non-dual substance which we call God, consists of 3 aspects. That is Brahman, the energy of the universe; Paramatma, supreme presence of the Supreme Lord within everyone and everywhere; and finally the Supreme Being, Sri Krishna. This is the non-dual Advay Gyan, the knowledge of non-duality. So then he continues, when one no longer sees the 28 separated material elements which arise from a single cause, but rather sees the cause itself, that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at that time one's direct perception is called Vijnana or self-realization. See, it means that wherever you look, you see God. Whoever you see God. Whether that is a creature, a small insect, or an animal, or a human being. In all of them, you see God. When you see Him everywhere, in every tree, in every blade of grass, in everything that is in the creation, from the earth to the sky, when you see Him in everything, that is called self-realization. That is Vigyan. Now you've gone from this intellectual knowledge, what you heard today was an intellectual knowledge. But when you begin to perceive that for real, everywhere, and that stays consistent, you're always seeing that He is everywhere. When someone comes to your house, He is coming to your house. God is coming to your house. When there is an animal that you see, that is God too. In His energetic form, not in His personal form. No, that He has His own form as the Supreme Being. That is self-realization. So creation, annihilation, and maintenance are the stages of material causation, that which consistently accompanies all these material phases from one creation to another and remains alone when all material phases are annihilated, is the one eternal. Let me explain that for you. See, what he's saying is that the universe is constantly being created and destroyed. It is created at a certain point in time. Brahma gets given the role of doing the creation. Vishnu maintains it. And then Shiva destroys it. When it is all destroyed, it goes back into the Mahatattva. It goes back into that place where there is nothing except God. In the beginning, there was nothing, only God. And from Him came all this variety, all this variegatedness. And even now, there is only God. And then this will dissolve back into that original source. That is God. So at all stages, there is only God. It is He who exists before the creation. It is He who exists during the creation. And it is He who exists only when that creation is annihilated and wiped out. This is the beauty. The only thing that ever existed was God, and the only thing that will ever exist is God. Everything else is just a passing phase. Like going into a movie theater, watching a fascinating movie, but then you come back out, you're in your world. Your world hasn't left. You may get drunk, but your world is still going to be there with its problems. You may go out and take some drug, and you may go get high on LSD or some other substance, but your world will still be there. So that is constant. What is constant in the bigger picture is God. That Supreme Being, that Supreme Lord, that Bhagavan, Sri Krishna. He is the constant in everything, at every stage, at all times. So if you want something that is going to be consistently there, that's when you start seeking Him. From the 4 types of evidence, Vedic knowledge, direct experience, traditional wisdom, and logical induction, 4 types of evidence. Vedic knowledge, direct experience, traditional wisdom, and logical induction. From all of these, one can understand the temporary, insubstantial situation of the material world, by which one becomes detached from the duality of this world. An intelligent person should see that any material activity is subject to constant transformation. And that even on the planet of Brahma, that is in the heavenly planets, there is thus simply unhappiness. Why unhappiness? Because there is constant change, constant transformation. Constantly everything is changing. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is lasting. Indeed, a wise person can understand that just as all that he has seen is temporary, similarly all things within the universe have a beginning and an end. O Uddhava, because you love me, I previously explained to you the process of bhakti, of devotional service. Now I will again explain the supreme process for achieving loving service unto me. Now he goes on to describe a series of activities. Now we begin with the, firm faith in the blissful narrations of my pastimes. So what are the different processes of bhakti? Firm faith in the blissful narration of my pastimes. See, Krishna is present through that narration. When we hear about his activities, we are in touch with him. His activities are no different than he is. Shravanam means listening or reading. Constant chanting of my glories. So speaking about him or chanting his name. Unwavering attachment to worshipping him, to praising him through beautiful songs and hymns, great respect for my bhakti, my devotional service, and offering obeisances, the entire body bowing down, worshipping my devotees, consciousness of me in all living entities, offering of daily bodily activities in my devotional service, use of words to describe my qualities, offering the mind to me, rejection of all material desires, giving up wealth, renouncing material sense gratification and happiness, and performing all desirable activities such as charity, sacrifice, chanting, vows, austerities, with the purpose of achieving me. These constitute actual dharma, actual religious principles by which those human beings who have actually surrendered themselves to me automatically develop love for me. What other purpose or goal could remain for my devotee? So he's giving a bunch of different things, but you can break it down to 9 practices as mentioned by Narad Muni. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. These are the 9 Navada Bhakti, the 9 processes of bhakti, of devotion to God. Shravanam means to hear about the Supreme Lord. Kirtanam, to speak about him or chant his name or sing his glories. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. In this way, when you hear about him and when you speak about him and chant his name, you will begin to remember him. This will form an impression within your mind. These will become your sanskar. Sanskar means the impressions within your mind. This will be what becomes written on your chitta, on your consciousness. You see, whatever your material you're absorbing when you're watching something in a movie or you're on YouTube or on Facebook or on Instagram or anywhere you go, that's all getting impregnated into your consciousness, into your subconscious, I guess we say these days, right? But that's called the chitta. That is your consciousness. It is getting impregnated with all those impressions. So if, on the other hand, instead of implanting into your consciousness all this worldly stuff, entertainment of all kinds, pleasure of all kinds, all the worldly things that fascinate you, fascinate all of us. If that's what you're putting into your consciousness, well, garbage in, garbage out. That's what you're going to get. And so Krishna says that when you leave this body, the sum total of your consciousness at the time of leaving this body will determine what kind of body you will get in your next life. See, the sum total of what you've put in is going to determine your level of consciousness. If you have been putting in all the wisdom and the knowledge of God, of that supreme beautiful being, Sri Krishna, and if you have been absorbing that in within your and holding it dearly within your heart, then it will change your heart and it will change your consciousness and it will bring you closer and closer to him. And he says, one who comes to my abode never returns to this temporary and miserable world. So let me go over these things again. Firm faith in the blissful narrations of my pastimes, constant chanting of my glories, unwavering attachment to worshipping me, praising me through beautiful hymns, great respect for my devotional service, offering respects with the whole body, worshipping my devotees, consciousness of me in all living entities. You cannot say you love God, but you don't love all living entities. It doesn't work like that. You have to be able to be aware of him everywhere. Doesn't mean you have to love everybody. That's okay. You don't have to. But you have to be conscious that he is present in everyone, from the good person to the bad person, or the one who's trying to harm you to the one who's trying to love you. Everyone. He is in everyone and everything. Offering of daily bodily activities to my devotion, in my devotional service, use of words to describe my qualities, offering the mind to me, rejection of all material desires, giving up wealth, renouncing material sense gratification and happiness, performing all desirable activities such as charity, sacrifice, chanting vows, and austerities with the purpose of achieving me. These constitute actual dharma, actual religious principles by which those human beings who have actually surrendered themselves to me automatically develop love for me. Notice that it talks about automatically developing love for him. Now, he continues, when one's peaceful consciousness, strengthened by the mode of goodness, is fixed on the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one achieves religiosity, dharma, knowledge, jnana, detachment, vairagya, and opulence, aishwaram. So these four things are automatically achieved. What? How are they achieved? By the process that we've described of devotional service, of devoting yourself to God. What do you get? You're properly situated in dharma. One achieves religiosity. One gets full knowledge, jnana. One gets detachment, vairagya. And one gets opulence, aishwarya. Aishwarya or opulence is not only about wealth. One may get wealth. That's all right. And that's okay too, because that's also from him. And that's also for him. But one may also get the aishwarya or the opulence of beauty, or the opulence of strength, or the opulence of knowledge. They're all different forms of opulence, and they're all to be used in serving him. In the purport it is written, a pure devotee becomes peaceful or shanta by desiring everything for the service of Sri Krishna and nothing for himself. It doesn't mean that one should not have a house or a car or whatever else. You can have everything, but know that everything is to be used for his pleasure and for his service. That's the whole point. Is simply recognizing that everything belongs to him, is created by him, and is meant for him. And we can use that in his service. He is strengthened by the transcendental. So such a person is strengthened by the transcendental or purified mode of goodness called Shuddha Sattva, and thus achieves the supreme religious principle of directly serving the Supreme Lord. Meaning, at that point, one comes to a place where one achieves not only liberation from this world, but actually achieves knowledge of the Lord's form and his own spiritual form, your own swarup. Your swarup is your spiritual form. We, all of us, have a spiritual form. We have a swarup. Rup means form, and swa means your original form, the original form of the soul. Every soul has a spiritual form. Just as God has a spiritual form, so does the soul have a spiritual form. That spiritual form means it's not this material body. That spiritual form is subtle, very subtle, and cannot be perceived by these senses. That Swarup is your eternal relationship to Krishna. So, by these processes, one gains knowledge of the Lord's form and his own and your own spiritual body or Swarup. Detachment from material piety and sin. You're no longer interested in doing good or bad deeds. You're not interested in good karma or bad karma. And one attains the opulences of the spiritual world. Ultimately, one should be a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, since even the best the material world has to offer is most insignificant compared to the kingdom of God. Then Krishna continues, when consciousness is fixed on the material body, home, and other similar objects of sense gratification, one spends one's life chasing after material objects with the help of the senses. Consciousness thus, powerfully affected by the mode of passion, becomes dedicated to impermanent things. And in this way, irreligion, ignorance, attachment, and wretchedness arise. Actual dharma, or religious principles, are stated to be those that lead one to my bhakti, to my devotional service. Real knowledge, or jnana, is the awareness that reveals my all-pervading presence. Detachment, or vairagyam, is complete disinterest in the objects of material sense gratification. And opulence, or aishwarya, is the eightfold mystic perfections such as anima, siddhi, etc. Now see, Uddhava says, "My dear Krishna, please tell me how many types of disciplinary regulations and regular duties there are. Also tell me what is mental equilibrium, what is self-control, what is the actual meaning of tolerance and steadfastness." It's got a whole bunch of questions here. What are charity, austerity, and heroism, and how are reality and truth to be described? What is renunciation? What is wealth? What is desirable? What is sacrifice? What is religious remuneration? My dear Keshava, Krishna, O most fortunate one, how am I to understand the strength, opulence, and profit of a particular person? What is the best education? What is actual humility? What is real beauty? What are happiness and unhappiness? Who is learned and who is a fool? What are the true and false paths in life, and what are heaven and hell? Who is indeed a true friend, and what is one's real home? Who is a rich man and who is a poor man? Who is wretched and who is an actual controller? O Lord of the devotees, kindly explain these matters to me along with their opposites. Ooh, I wouldn't remember any of that if I had been asked a question like that. But Krishna remembers it and he answers every one of these things. So now he begins to give a list. And he says here, there are 12 disciplinary principles, and those are nonviolence, truthfulness, not coveting or stealing, detachment, humility. So they take discipline to make sure you don't do this. It's a discipline to be nonviolent, to be truthful, to not covet or be envious of what somebody else has or steal it, not be to be detached, to have humility and freedom from possessiveness, to trust in dharma, the religious principles and the path of dharma, celibacy, silence, steadiness, and forgiveness. So these, and fearlessness, right? These he mentions as the 12 primary disciplinary principles. Then he talks about 12 desired or prescribed duties. Internal cleanliness means that's to clean your mind, to clean your heart. That's internal cleanliness. Then external cleanliness, of course, having a bath and all that stuff, that comes under external cleanliness. Chanting the names of God, that also purifies one. Austerity, doing difficult things, not just trying to get an easy life and trying to get by. Right? Austerity, sacrifice, faith. These are all duties for us to perform as family persons. Hospitality of anyone who comes to your house. Worship of God. Worship, visiting holy places. Acting and desiring only for God. Satisfaction. And service to the Guru, the spiritual master. So these are the prescribed duties, 12 elements of regular prescribed duties. Then there are 24 elements. 24 elements that bestow all desired benedictions upon those persons who devotedly cultivate them. So absorbing the intelligence in Krishna constitutes mental equilibrium. Right? Absorbing the intelligence in Krishna, that brings about mental equilibrium. Tolerance is about patiently enduring unhappiness. It's a very interesting definition. Tolerance is about patiently enduring unhappiness. And steadfastness, I think I'll stick to this. Steadfastness is about conquering the tongue and the genitals. These are most difficult to conquer. Charity is about giving up all aggression towards others. It's an interesting definition, isn't that? The greatest charity is to give up all aggression towards others. Austerity is the renunciation of lust or desire. Real heroism is to conquer one's tendency to enjoy material life. It's not about our ideas of what we think is heroism. Then reality is seeing God or Paramatma everywhere. Truthfulness is to speak the truth as spoken by sages in a pleasing way. And that's an important piece, to speak it in a pleasing way. Because we sometimes get into this idea, I know the truth, and we then try to hammer it down on people in very harsh ways. He says, no, speak the truth in a pleasing way, in a way that a person can accept, can understand. What is the point otherwise of speaking it? Then cleanliness is detachment from karmic activities. Wealth is to really live a religious or spiritual life. Sacrifice is Bhagavan. Sacrifice is because he is the ultimate desirable wealth for human beings. And he is the object of all sacrifice. He is the benefactor of all sacrifice. So anything you give away, Krishna says, whatever you give in charity, whatever you do, whatever austerities you perform, whatever sacrifices you perform, do it as an offering unto me. So all of that is meant for him. And what is religious remuneration? You know, what when I going to give? That is devotion to the Guru. Strength is pranayam. I would never have thought. It says real strength comes from pranayam, doing the breathing exercises, right? The yogic breathing exercises where you breathe in, you hold the breath. So you breathe in from one side and you hold the breath, you breathe out from the other side. Like that. That is pranayam. Then he talks about the 6 opulences. The actual opulence is my own nature, and through which I exhibit the 6 unlimited opulences. So these are unlimited opulences: beauty, wealth, fame, knowledge, and strength. This is the primary definition of what is God. One who possesses all 6 of these in an unlimited way. Possesses all knowledge, all beauty, all wealth, all fame, and all strength. So one who possesses all beauty, all wealth, owns everything, who is famous everywhere, who has complete knowledge of everything, and who is the strongest of the strong, that person is known as Bhagavan. That is the Supreme Lord. There is no other that has that. Only one being has that. That is Bhagavan. And the final thing that is there in the 6: beauty, wealth, fame, knowledge, strength, and renunciation. All 6. He's detached from everything. He has all this and yet he's detached from it. Completely detached. So these are the 6 qualities of Bhagavan, the 6 opulences of Bhagavan. Then he continues, the supreme gain in life is bhakti or devotional service to me, and actual education is nullifying the false perception of duality within the soul. Right? So the supreme gain is devotional service to God, to Krishna. Actual education is nullifying the false perceptions of duality. Real modesty is to avoid improper activities. And real beauty is to possess good qualities. Real happiness is to transcend material happiness and unhappiness, to go beyond material happiness and unhappiness. That is real happiness. Real misery is searching for sexual pleasure. Why does that lead to misery? Because now it entangles you in the world. You're chasing pleasure, and pleasure is entangling you in the world. Your freedom is lost. Your time is lost. Your life is lost. So a wise person is one who knows the process of freedom from bondage. And a fool is one who identifies with his material body and mind. It's very clear. The right path is that which leads to God, that which leads to me, Krishna says. The wrong path is sense gratification. Sense gratification means to spend your life wanting to enjoy your senses. That's all. That is sense gratification. So the wrong path is sense gratification. The right path is that which leads to God. Actual heaven is the mode of goodness. When you're in the mode of goodness, your mind is peaceful and you experience being in it's a heavenly state, even right here, right now. Hellish state is the mode of ignorance. So you notice he's not getting focused on some heaven or hell out there, but that heaven and hell is right here. Right within your consciousness is heaven or hell. If you are in the mode of goodness, you're leading a heavenly life. You're very peaceful. You're very detached. You're not struggling. You're not, chasing stuff. That's the mode of passion. And hell is that place of the mode of ignorance, where you're depressed, where you're feeling worthless, where you feel not good enough. You don't feel like doing anything. You have no motivation, no desire, no nothing. That's the mode of ignorance, and that's hell. Then he says, I am everyone's true friend. I am the spiritual master of the entire universe. This is such a very clear thing. I am everyone's true friend. And I am the spiritual master of the entire universe. So it's not like there are many gods. There is only one God. There is only one supreme being. And to understand him properly, that is the goal of life. One's home is not just some physical place that you live, but your real home is the body. This is where your soul lives. To be rich is to be enriched with good qualities. To be poor is to be unsatisfied in life. This is such a wonderful measure. To be rich is to be enriched with good qualities. This is the real richness or wealth of a person, that they have good qualities. Qualities like compassion, kindness. This is wealth. Devotion to God. Love for all living beings. This is wealth. And what is poverty? To be unsatisfied in life. It's not that you don't have a lot of money. Not having money doesn't make you poor. Being unsatisfied in life with whatever you've got, that is poverty. You could be a multimillionaire and unsatisfied. You're poor. And you could be a person who has very little, but you have good qualities. That makes you rich. A wretched person is one who cannot control his senses. And the real controller is not attached to sense gratification. See, real control means being in control of your mind, body, and senses. But if you are not in control of them, then you are going to be miserable. Then you're going to be what he calls here a wretched person, an unhappy person, a miserable person, is one who cannot control their senses. Whereas one who is not attached to sense gratification is the one who is in control. We are trying to control everyone and everything. But the one thing we don't try to control is our own mind and our senses. One who attaches himself to sense gratification is the opposite A slave. A slave is one who is, we are slave of our senses. So therefore, one who is attached to sense gratification is a slave. He's not a controller. He's not free. To constantly see good and bad is itself a bad quality. And the best quality is to transcend good and evil. Right? So that is just so beautifully put. It says, thus, Uddhava, I have elucidated all the matters about which you inquired. There is no need for a more elaborate description of these good and bad qualities, since to constantly see good and bad is itself a bad quality. Really absorb this idea. To see good and bad, constantly see good and bad is itself a bad quality. The best quality is to transcend both good and evil. Transcend both good and evil. That is called non-duality, where you go beyond good and evil, beyond that which is good and bad, and you come to that place where nothing matters. None of this stuff matters. I hope you learned a lot today. I did. And I thank you for being here. Now, there is a question, so I'd like to take that up. Is it possible to be detached and ambitious at the same time? How does one separate attachment from lack of enthusiasm or being too passive? Okay, wonderful. Let's be very clear. These two must go hand in hand. It is not that one should not be ambitious. Be absolutely ambitious, but be detached at the same time. And what that means is that while seeking to grow in life, to progress in life, do it as an offering to God. Do it as a service to God. Do it not for your own self, but that you may be able to serve Him through the gifts that He has given you. So if what the quality He has given you is that you are passionate and ambitious about material success, fine. There is nothing that is separate from God. Neither you are separate from Him, nor your achievements, nor your desires, nor the things you have, or the things you will have. They are all part of Him. When you recognize that there is only Him, tu hi tu, tu hi tu, tu hi tu, there is only Him, there is only you, Krishna. That everything I do it for you. And if you have that spirit, that everything I do it for you, then be ambitious. Have great things, have wonderful things, but serve His devotees, serve His loved ones, and make your home and make the space you have a place that is used to worship Him. Then your ambition is wonderful. Other part of your question was, how does one separate attachment from lack of enthusiasm or being too passive? See, lack of enthusiasm and being passive are in the mode of ignorance. They will not lead to any good result. One must be willing, striving. Either you want to develop your material life or your spiritual life, or both. But one must be striving. There must be a sense of purpose and purposefulness and hope that one will be able to strive towards something. It is very, very important. So there is no question of detachment from lack of enthusiasm or being too passive. See, you're asking, how does one separate detachment from lack of enthusiasm? Got it. So detachment, you see, Arjun is fighting the battle of Kurukshetra, right? Krishna wants Arjun to win that battle. He doesn't want Arjun to just be passive. He doesn't want Arjun to lack enthusiasm. He wants Arjun to fight with full gusto, give it his all. Why? for the pleasure of Krishna. So the activity is the same. He's a warrior, Arjun, and he's in a battle. And Krishna wants him to fight with his ultimate energy, not half baked, with all his might, giving it everything he's got for the pleasure of Krishna. That's the only difference. So when you are working, put that in your mind. Krishna, I've come here for you. I start my day with you. When you wake up, before you put your feet on the ground, say, I dedicate this day to you. When you begin your work, say, I dedicate this work to you. When you get the fruits of your work, dedicate those fruits to him. Yes, you'll need to live, then dedicate your house to him, dedicate your body to him, dedicate the food you eat to him. Everything becomes an act of devotion. In this way, we turn matter into spirit. We turn the material world into the spiritual world. And anyone who enters into your space, whether that is in your presence, whether that is in your home, it's as if they've entered the spiritual world. They will feel the presence of Krishna around you and in your home and in your space. Then you know you have fully devoted yourself, because the ego no longer remains. I no longer remain. There is only you, Krishna. There is only you. Okay? So with that, we'll come to an end. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask, either now or in the future, whenever you feel like you're watching this. If you have questions, please ask. I'll do my best to reply. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.